In June of last year, a driver received a violation because they had alcohol concentration in their system. When the officer had them blow in the PBT, which is a preliminary breath testing device, they blew a .099, almost a .10. Well, the regulation they got violated for says you can't have that concentration while on duty, operating, or in physical control of the CMV. Well, this driver was in the sleeper berth, and the officer knocked on the door. Driver answered the door, and the officer says, "I smell alcohol." It's in a sleeper berth, contacted by the inspector, on duty, operating, or in physical control. If it's true, then you have a violation. If not true, then you don't.
Right.
So I said, if the driver's in the sleeper, he's not on duty, operating, or in physical control. There's no provision or guidance that says you can't drink while you're in a 10-hour off-duty or sleeper berth getting your 10-hour or 34-hour restart. Now, it says you can't at a .099. What do you say?
And that's the thing. He was not operating. He was sleeping in his bunk.
Come on. There's times where you just got to leave these drivers alone. If you don't have them, you ain't got them. Stop trying to fit like a oval peg into a round hole or a square peg into a round hole. If it's a round hole and the round peg goes in there and they violated, so be it. But don't try to push the envelope. And what is a data queue? A data queue is a way to defend yourself. And in these cases that we're discussing here, that's exactly what we're doing for the drivers and the companies.
What's going on, Mutha Truckers? Welcome to Mutha Trucker News. Please email us at muthatruckernews@gmail.com so that we can always help you guys out, for all the watchers, for all the listeners out there. We got our guy, John, back here, from Trucking Wins. We got to show him some love real quick. So I definitely want to show your website right here. Please introduce yourself. Let people know real quick what you are about and how you help truck drivers and trucking companies out. Let's go, brother.
All right. I appreciate you bringing me back on here. So John Seidel, owner of Trucking Wins. It's a website that has training videos. You go on, click on them. You watch all about split sleeper, personal conveyance, your big day, how to do a roadside inspection, bunch of information on there. I have a monthly podcast where if you're a member of Trucking Wins, you can come on and ask me questions anytime. So basically, I want to help truck drivers win at this game called trucking, and you need a DOT coach, and that's who I am. So I like doing these sessions with you. It's really good to get information out to our listeners, and today we kind of had a little discussion that we thought data queues. What the heck is a data queue? We thought that it might be a good topic to talk about and give some examples.
I love it. So, talking about that right here, first we'll explain what data queues are. And with that said, there's a lot of interesting things that happen sometimes. And my guy, John, here helps these truck drivers and trucking companies out. So, let's get into what a data queue is. And I'm going to pop this up right here, and we can share this screen, and then we can go into some actual real life situations with John. He did not say it, so I'll say it. How many years of being an ex-DOT were you?
I got you. Yeah. So I used to be a state patrol inspector for about 12 years. Then I was an investigator with the feds for about 8. Then I was a hazmat agent for 3. So 23 years, government regulator. I worked the scales. I knocked on company doors, did full reviews. So when it comes to that DOT number, I pretty much have your answer. Now, I'm a DOT consultant providing this information through Trucking Wins. I also dabble in truck insurance a little bit.
Oh, that's good. That's good, brother. So let's add the screen right here, and let's kind of show people what the heck are we looking at right now. What is a data queue?
Well, here's the deal. What you're looking at now is a roadside inspection that occurred at a company, right? What's a data queue, though? If you as a driver, or if a trucking company has a driver pulled over and you get any violations that you think the officer is simply wrong, you can go onto an internet website called the Data Queue website. You can type a bunch of stuff in and attach documents and basically make an argument, kind of like you're going to court, even though you're not going to court. And you upload your argument you upload the inspection, any supporting documents, pictures, regulations, anything you can do to say, you know what, officer, you're wrong. Now, in some cases, maybe the officer isn't like 100% wrong from a common sense perspective, but they try to push the envelope with the laws sometimes. And in this particular case, that's exactly what they did. Data queues, it's where you can challenge these violations because maybe you know more about the regulation than even the officer does. But a lot of companies are at the mercy of just assuming that the officer's always right. Well, when I come in, I kind of really dissect it. And it's exactly what I did here. In June of last year, a driver received a violation because they had alcohol concentration in their system. When the officer had them blow in the PBT, which is a preliminary breath testing device, they blew a .099, almost a .10. Well, the regulation they got violated for says you can't have that concentration while on duty, operating, or in physical control of the CMV. Well, this driver was in the sleeper berth, and the officer knocked on the door. Driver answered the door, and the officer says, I smell alcohol, and wrote him up for being at a .099 when the dude was sleeping in his sleeper berth. Well, let's dissect this. Is that on duty? No, it's sleeper berth. There's 4 duty status and 1 on duty. Was he operating on a highway? No. Was he in physical control of the CMV while he's sleeping in the bunk? No. So now this officer would have had to prove that this driver was actually under the influence while he was driving up to his parking spot in the sleeper berth. Right. Now, me and Mutha Trucker, we're not advocating going out and getting, a little bit under the influence while you're sleeping in your sleeper berth. If you want to make it so you don't have any problems, don't do it. But if you do, are you in violation, right? So I put a data queue together. And what I started with is this section 392.5. It says right here, no driver in the regulation shall have any concentration of alcohol while on duty, operating, or in physical control. Is the driver that's in a sleeper berth contacted by the inspector on duty, operating, or in physical control? If it's true, then you have a violation. If not true, then you don't.
Right.
So I said, if the driver's in the sleeper, he's not on duty, operating, or in physical control. There's no provision or guidance that says you can't drink while you're in a 10-hour off-duty or sleeper berth getting your 10-hour or 34-hour restart. Now, it says you can't have alcohol in the truck, but he didn't. Let's say he was at a bar nearby the truck stop, had some drinks, and was going to do a 34-hour restart or 10 plus, maybe 12, 13 hours off. There's nothing that precludes him from doing so. But I knew they wouldn't go along with me. So I called a program manager at FMCSA, and I asked him, if in the sleeper berth, under the influence, is it on duty, operating, or in physical control? I got an email from Washington, D.C. from the head of the Drug and Alcohol Division that said, nope. As long as he wasn't operating on a highway, there's nothing prohibits him from being under the influence sitting in his sleeper berth. So in the end, I data queued this through the system that we talked about, and they removed this violation completely from the company's CSA scores. So no violations whatsoever in their controlled substance. How many companies would know to do this? There's the question.
No, that's the big one, and the crazy part about this is if they did nothing about it, if they didn't hit you up at truckandwins.com, right? I'm plugging you here. How many points would they have received?
Well, I'll tell you, they would have got a 10-point out of service in addition. It would have stayed on their records for 3 years. And I personally, working in the insurance business, have seen companies get their insurance canceled based solely on one driver operating under the influence. And if not canceled, when they go to get renewed the following year, their rates go through the ceiling. Plus, if you go try to get a brokered load with a negative like this on the drug and alcohol of your company, that you had a driver operating while intoxicated, that could hurt a company. Now, what does it do to the driver? Right. This citation would go on his CDL for operating under the influence, right? And whether it's supported by state law sitting in a sleeper berth, certainly not federal law, so it shouldn't sit on his stuff. Would he have been reported to the clearinghouse potentially? Yes.
Yeah.
But me doing the data queue kept his name out of the clearinghouse, kept it off of his MVR, and basically got it off the company's record. Again, me and you aren't sitting here trying to tell people to get hammered when they're sitting in their sleeper berth, correct?
Right. No, I agree.
We're just teaching them that you got to know what the law says. And you got to realize that these law enforcement officers have to prove with facts that you actually violate the law as written. Whether you agree with the law or not, that's irrelevant. Did this driver operate at a 0.099? What do you say?
You know, and that's the thing. He was not operating. He was sleeping in his bunk.
Yeah. So, that goes into a video we did before too, where there was a driver that had like a tire that went bad and he's waiting in line to get inspected. You remember that one we did?
Oh yeah.
We're waiting in line to get it fixed. And then the officer comes up and inspects him. I mean, come on. There's times where you just got to leave these drivers alone. If you don't have them, you ain't got them. Stop trying to fit like a oval peg into a round hole or a square peg into a round hole. If it's a round hole and the round peg goes in there and they violated, so be it. But don't try to push the envelope. And what is a data queue? A data queue is a way to defend yourself. And in these cases that we're discussing here, that's exactly what we're doing for the drivers and the companies.
I love that. And if you guys get a chance, man, John's just my friend, definitely not a sponsored video or anything. But, if you have something going on, go to truckingwins.com, and he'll help you out. And a situation like this will save the driver and save the trucking company. So, I appreciate everything you do, brother.
Yeah, come find me on Trucking Wins. See you next time, guys.